Good. Okay. Anything you want to say at this point of time on what we are discussing? Am I making some sense in what I'm saying? Is it okay? Is what I'm saying okay for you?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you can comment, you can remark, you can say how it is affecting your teaching back home, what you're able to, you can talk of anything like that. Okay. I will talk very briefly. I'll talk about what we should not do when we do the presentation skills, very briefly, and then move on to something else. How nice, very good. What we should not do in presentation. Anybody has any idea? What we should not do? Things we should not do when we do the presentation, either our presentation or in the learner's presentation, whoever is presenting, what we should not do.
Presenter should not read from the slides.
Excellent. Good. Presenter should not read from this slide. Extremely well said. Anybody can read it. Everybody can read it. And therefore, the presenter need not turn towards the slide and keep on reading. Good.
Don't deviate.
Good.
From the topic.
Good. Don't deviate from the topic. Stick to what you have said there, clarify it, and make very pointed remarks about whatever points you have included there. Good. Don't deviate. Next.
Don't heavily overload the slides.
Absolutely. Don't unnecessarily overload the slides. Some people put in a lot of information. Our human tendency, just a minute. Our human tendency is to read everything that is there on the slide and also keep on writing whatever is there on the slide. Now, because of that, if you have a heavily loaded slide with too many things included in it, then you see people will not listen to what you have to say. And therefore, it's always very important that we have the key points on the slide, which people can see, read, and also write very quickly. Good. So don't heavily overload this slide. Good. Next.
Exams should be related to our content, sir.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Whatever is presented should be related to the content. Somebody already mentioned, don't distract, don't talk about unnecessary things. Should be related to the content. Good. Next.
Jyoti madam, Yashoda miss.
Yeah.
Aidu Prita class.
Yashoda ma'am.
ಸರಿ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಕೇಳಲೆ ಕಣ ಊಟ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಟೈಮ್ ಎಷ್ಟು ಈಗ ಟೈಮ್ ಆಗ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ಊಟ ಮಾಡೋಷ್ಟೊತ್ಕಲ್ಲ ಆಯ್ತು ಬಿಡು
ಯಶೋದ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ
ಎರಡು
ಹಲೋ ಯಶೋದ ಮೇಡಮ್ ಡಿಸ್ಟರ್ಬ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಸರ್ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ಗೆ
ಗುಡ್ ವೆರಿ ಗುಡ್ ಆಯ್ತು ಡನ್ ಓಕೆ ಎನಿಥಿಂಗ್ ಎಲ್ಸ್ ವಿ ಶುಡ್ ನಾಟ್ ಡೂ ವಿತ್ ದಿಸ್ ಸ್ಲೈಡ್ ಎನಿಥಿಂಗ್ ಎಲ್ಸ್ ಗುಡ್ ಆಲ್ ರೈಟ್ okay. So the key word in making these presentations is precision, precise, to the point. Precision is a very important concept in any presentation. Excellent. Normally, I recommend 5 or 6 slides, not more than that. It's adequate. You can put in, for example, even if I have a 90-minute presentation or a 60-minute presentation, even then about 5, 6 or maximum 7 slides should be more than adequate, because it gives you, then you see you can, as somebody said some time ago, time management. You can spread it across. And what I do is, normally when I prepare my slides, I take a printout of the slide and I work on the printout. On the hard copy, I write my notes, whatever I want to say about each point. On every page, I make my very elaborate notes, whatever I want. And that I use in my presentation. But the audience will just see that little thing on this slide. To me, that is a very safe way of doing things, because I can also ask them to make their notes, additional notes and things like this, but up to you, you can make it. But I recommend that you don't do more than 5 to 6 slides. Enough. And people appreciate it and they're happy with it. Key points and so on and so forth. Okay, very good. All right. Somebody said earlier in the first set of discussion that a presentation is a reflection of the presenter's personality. This is very important. I thought that was a very important point that was made, because just as what I am saying now is a reflection of my personality, you're also assessing my personality, what kind of a person I am. Similarly, in any presentation, the presenter's personality can be very clearly seen. The presenter's capabilities, strengths, weaknesses, all this can be seen very well. And we really don't have to say much about it. But I want to take you on to something slightly related, but something that you should know. You know, presentation is also a kind of a perception, perceive, learn, understand. And all our understanding, now I want to take you onto a new field. So listen very carefully, and you can make your notes. I'll give you time also to make some notes, but listen very carefully. Perception is basically related to something called cognition. I'm sure all of you have heard of cognition. C-O-G-N-I-T-I-O-N. What is cognition? Anybody who knows about it? Can somebody tell me whatever you understand by the word cognition?
Intellectual ability, sir.
Good. Intellectual ability. Cognition.
ನಾನ ಕಾಬ್ ಹೊಡೆದ್ರಿ ಮಂದಿ ನೋಡಿ ಅವನ ನಿಮ್ ಲೆಕ್ಕ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಬಾಳ ಒಂದ್ 500 ಮಂದಿ ಇರ್ಬೋದು. ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ ಸರೌಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಅಷ್ಟ ಐತಿಲ್ರ ಅಂತ 500 ಇನ್ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ಅಷ್ಟೇ, ರಾಣಿ ಚೆನ್ನಮ್ಮ ಅಷ್ಟೇ, ಮೇಡಮ್ ಅವರ ಕಡೆ ಹಿಂಗ ನೋಡಿದ್ವಿ. ಮತ್ ಅಡಿಗೆನೂ ಭಾರಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು. ಸಾಂಬಾರ ಮಾತ್ರ ಸಾಂಬಾರು ಏನ್ರಿ ಅಡಿಗೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಅದ
ಬಸವರಾಜ್
ಭಾಳ ಆಗಿದ್ದಿಲ್ಲ.
ಬಸವರಾಜ್ ಮ್ಯೂಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಏನ್ ನೀವು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರೋದು? ಅಡಿಗೆ ಗಿಡಿ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡು ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಿ. ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ನಾನ್ ಸೆನ್ಸ್. ನಾನು ಇದನ್ನ ರಿಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ಇದನ್ನ ಯು ಮಸ್ಟ್ ಪಾರ್ಟಿಸಿಪೇಟ್ ಹಿಯರ್. ಅಡಿಗೆ ವಿಚಾರ ಅದೆಲ್ಲ 1500 ಮಂದಿ ಅಲ್ಲ. ವೆರಿ ರಾಂಗ್. ಸಾರಿ. Good. Okay. Now we are discussing something serious. And what are you doing? Good. Okay. We were talking about cognition. And I was asking a question about cognition. What is cognition? Whatever you know about it. Padmalata ma'am said it's an intellectual ability. Anybody has any other definition of a cognition?
Awareness.
Yes, Amir. Sorry? Yes, Ashoda?
Awareness, sir. Awareness.
Oh, good, good, good.
Being precise.
Excellent. Awareness, being precise. Good. Very good.
It is a mental process that takes place in the brain. Like
All right.
thinking,
Good. All the mental activities take place in the brain.
paying attention, language processing,
Okay.
reflection also.
Good.
All these.
Attention, reflection, language processing, all this. Very good. Now, I want you to understand something about cognition. Cognition, cognition is related to the mind. All activities of the mind are called cognition. Cognition relates to all activities of the mind. Because it is something which is talking about the mind, we relate cognition to the mental abilities. Everything happening in the brain. If you actually cut open the skull and try to look for cognition, we won't find it. It's not located in any specific point. It's well distributed, which means the activities of the brain, which are very well distributed across the brain, the nervous system, and so on, cognition is present everywhere. All human beings, non-human beings, that means all birds and animals, all those which are alive, may have a cognition. But we are worried about the human cognition. Human cognition is very complex. It can do so many things. One of the first things that human cognition can do is to store information. It can store information. It is a huge storage. A huge storage of knowledge, of information, of data. It can not only store information, it can also organize information, categorize information. So we know that, for example, the difference between hot and cold. What is hot and what is cold? And between hot and cold, the two extremes, very hot and very cold, we have so many categories. And cognition can organize these categories. Cognition can also give a name. Can name experience. And so we know morning, evening, afternoon, noon, post-noon, night, midnight. How do we know all these things? It's because of the cognition. Cognition can recognize, store, organize, categorize. So many categories. Experience is organized in so many categories. It can give names to all these categories also. So when we eat something, we give different names. We use lots of names. And so it names all these categories. So cognition is there in every one of us. But it can differ from person to person. That's why we talked of previous knowledge. Some cognitions have some previous knowledge. Others don't have that knowledge, which means it is not there as part of the storage.
कोंकणी है, 5 महाराष्ट्र कर्नाटक में बहुत है।
Prasad,
by travel science.
Prasad,
Yeah.
mute please.
Okay.
Yeah. Prasad, mute. GSV
Okay.
Prasad, please mute.
Oh, okay.
Mute, Prasad.
Prasad sir, mute. Prasad sir.
Please mute, Prasad. Okay. So cognition also has another capacity which you should know, and that is cognition can forget. Cognition is very choosy. It can choose what it wants. It can store what it wants. But cognition can also forget. If cognition wants to forget, it can forget. And something is not in use, cognition may lose it. If I ask you, sing the song which you used to sing when you were 12-year-old, we don't remember that. Unless something else, you know. So cognition is what we call a very complex structure. It is a very complex structure. And why are we discussing this cognition? We are discussing this cognition because of a few very important things, such as, for example, all our learners have cognition. They have cognitive capacities. But we also said there are individual differences. And because of these individual differences, the learning capacity varies from individual to individual. So individuals vary in their learning abilities because their storage is different. Each person has his or her set of things stored, which has given a certain ability to the cognition. And all our experiences, words, sentences, all of them differ. Voice also differs, and so on. So cognition is there in everybody. Now, the result of this was that I'm now moving into a slightly related but different topic. About 100 years ago, we did not have this notion of cognition. We did not know about it. We did not talk about it. Prasad, Prasad.
आपको आइडिया आ गया कर लिया मैं मुझे डाउट आ रहा था शायद पीएचडी
प्रसाद सर
जनरली याद नहीं
प्रसाद
रहता
म्यूट ಮಾಡಿ
फिक्स कर लेते
प्रसाद सर
फिर आपने
म्यूट
पूरा
ಮಾಡಿ
याद करके कर लिया
Rajagopal sir, the host themselves can mute them.
ठीक है
If
सर
they are
थैंक
not
यू वेरी
muted,
मच
the host can mute them, sir.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
Yeah.
Okay. Fine, all right, done it. About 100 years ago, we did not have all these ideas. What did they have? About more than 100 years ago, we had a group of people who had started observing human behavior, how people behaved. You know, that was how they started. Because for a long time, it was believed that there is no difference between human learning and non-human learning, animal learning. They learned in exactly the same way. So the animals learned, for example, you teach a dog to do a few things, it will learn. And similarly, a bird, the bird also will learn. And they believed strongly that humans also learned in exactly the same way. They strongly said that, oh, no. I can observe your behavior and predict what you are going to do, how you are going to behave. They were very confident of observation, recording, and saying things, generalizing from that. They're very confident about it. Oh yes, I can do it so very well and so on. And these people strongly believed. For example, if I go to the classroom and I am the teacher and I stand in front of the classroom, address the classroom, talk to them for 45 minutes, and all listeners listen to me in exactly the same way at the same pace for 45 minutes, I can tell you that all of them have learned in exactly the same way. They were so confident. And this group of psychologists who came to be the first group of psychologists, I'm moving into psychology a little bit, came to be known as behaviorists. Some of you may have heard about them. For example, if I mention somebody like Skinner, B.F. Skinner, some of you might recall. Thorndike, Carl Jung, J-U-N-G, and then Freud. All these people very strongly believe that, oh, no problem. Human behavior is very simple, straightforward. Like a Xerox machine. Put the thing inside, take the thing outside. You will get exactly the same thing outside. That's all. Press a button and that's it. And human beings are no different at all. Give them this one, and so you see, if you remember your grandparents or the great-grandfather and others, they would tell you, no, do it 10 times, 100 times, you will learn it. Okay, na? aa jayega, automatic aa jayega. Learning is very automatic, and repeat it so many times. Apne aap aa jayega. This was what they strongly believed in. Because for them, human behavior is very central. So they said everything is possible. But we know that human behavior, what we see outside, is different from what happens inside. The same teacher stands in front of the same class and talks to the same group for exactly the same period of time in exactly the same manner. We know that at the end of that session, some have learned everything, some have learned nothing, and the majority of them have learned a little bit of it here, a little bit of it there. 40-60 or 60-40, 50-50, 70-30, 80-20, that's it. But it's not, as these behaviorists said, that the same person taking etc. will result in the same kind of learning. No. So these second group of psychologists started exploring this. What is it that makes a human being different from a dog or a parrot? And they said that what makes the human being different is the human brain. So they started analyzing the brain and its functions. And so they came up with this idea of cognition. They said human beings they wanted a word, that's all. Cognition is a word. It's like any other word. A mango. Why is a mango called a mango? We don't know. It's called a mango, that's all. Banana, it's called a banana. Why? Well, just like that. Similarly, cognition. So they said human beings have something called cognition, and that controls and regulates human behavior. And they went one step further. They said, just as when the child is born, so many things are built in the child when the child is born. It has a digestive system. It can breathe. It has a kidney. It has limbs. And it has muscles, this, that, and so on. Similarly, they said something very important. The child is born with a capacity to learn language also. every child, every human child, every normal human child. We don't want about abnormality. There can be abnormal children also. No. Every normal human children are born with something called cognition, which enables them to do so many things, perform so many activities, control so many things. And cognition is something which helps in the process of learning also, expansion of knowledge, words, sentences. And it's the cognition which enables the learner to learn and learn more and store more and use that information and so on. So today, we are very lucky that the cognitivists, which was a new group and which is also led by a person whom you might have heard of, namely Noam Chomsky and several others. Now, all these people contributed to the idea of cognitivism. So the cognitivists talked about the structure of cognition. So they said, human mind is not like a Xerox machine. Whatever you put in will come out automatically. No, learning is not automatic. What goes in as input is processed by the brain, by cognition. And that is the intake. And cognition decides what to take, what to filter out, what to forget, what to remove. It does so many things, and therefore the output will be very different from the input. And so, when we teachers look at our classes, we notice that learning factors are very different from teaching factors. I cannot assume that what I teach will be learned 100% by the learners and in exactly the same way. No, there may be slips. Some may have learned everything. Some may add some extra information also from wherever they have. Some may have learned partially. And there will be quite a few who haven't understood anything at all. They come back to you and say, sir, no, please repeat. Say it again. I'll try to learn. Why does it happen like this? It happens like this because of cognition. The cognitive structure in the individual. The complex cognitive structure in the individual's cognition. And therefore, the idea of cognition is very important for us today. It also helps us in one more way, and I'll quickly wind this up. Many years ago, 100 years or 100 years ago, as I told you, when they observed behavior, they said, always teach only the right thing. Because if you teach the right thing, they will learn the right thing. Don't teach them the wrong thing. Because if they learn the wrong thing, they'll remember the wrong thing. Many years ago, for example, if you remember, all our parents insisted that we write in our right hand. And if some of them wanted to write in left hand, they did not want that to happen. They would insist on, they would hit us and insist that we write on the right hand because they thought that was the best way to do it. So all of us should be right-handers. So this used to be the belief many years ago, right and wrong. So this is right, that is wrong. Do this, don't do this. Be like this, not like that. So this was a strong thing because they thought if you allow the wrong thing to happen, if the human did a wrong thing, that would be learned. And that may be strongly learned. So they did not allow that. But when cognitivists came about, they said, no, that's not the case. A mistake or an error should not be punished. No, not at all. Don't punish a mistake. Because they said, look, and listen very carefully to what I'm going to say now. It's very important. There can be no learning without making a mistake. The cognitivists said that between the input and the intake, there are a number of filters. And the cognition uses these filters data. And these filters are very special to each individual. These filters enable what we call processing. And so the cognition processes the input data. And what it processes and eventually stores becomes the intake data. And when the individual wants to say something, the individual takes the intake data and comes out as the output data. So the output shows you how much knowledge, what type of knowledge, etc., that the individual possesses, how much of learning takes place and so on. So therefore, human learning results as a result of the processes that happen in cognition. Therefore, in that process, making a mistake is normal. It's natural. As teachers, therefore, today we say that a mistake done by the learners, which they do in the classroom, whether it's pronunciation or using a word or using a sentence or telling you, retelling you, presentation, whatever it is, mistakes are bound to happen. If you want to learn cycling, you can't straight away sit on the cycle and then start turning. If you want to learn car driving, you can't straight away sit in the car, start and no. There are bound to be errors. Errors are natural. Errors are normal. An error should be there in learning. Today, we go one step beyond this. Listen very carefully. Today, we are not unhappy with mistakes, errors. We today welcome errors. We want errors to happen. Why? Because today we say that why was there an error? The child saying kra instead of crow. Why was there an error there? An error happened. An error occurred because the child attempted to learn something. Because the child made an effort to learn something, there was an error. And therefore, today we say that an error is an indication that learning is taking place. Why there is an error? Because the learner made an attempt to learn. So, an error is an indication that learning is taking place. And so today, thanks to cognitivists, thanks to cognition and so on, today we say that error is not just normal, it is also natural, and we welcome errors. We are very surprised if somebody does not make a single error. No errors at all, 100 out of 100. There must be some problem somewhere. Because we do expect errors to be there in learning. No problem. No, somebody can get 100 out of 100, which is very good. No errors at all, which is wonderful if that happens and so on. But by and large, today, when we understand cognition, cognitive processes, cognitive processing of data, when we analyze all these things, today we understand that in our classes, when we teach, there will be errors. And we don't get angry when somebody makes an error. You don't say, I told you 14 times, I've told you, still you don't know. You can't let it, get out, don't go out, don't come down. No, we don't say those things at all. Maybe there is a problem in input data, which means what I told, maybe there is a problem there. Maybe there is a problem in intake data, in how the learner understood the intake process. Maybe there is a process in output itself. Maybe that is not exactly the way the intake is. The output might be something different. Therefore, errors do happen normally, naturally, which is a very big development. So, my dear teachers, ladies and gentlemen, do not get worried if there are errors in your learners when they learn whatever subject you teach. But try to find out where it could have occurred. Did it occur in your input? How you gave the input yourself? Could that have been a problem? Would you like to modify that? Or could there be some other problem, which could be personality or individual's problem? Can the person have problems listening? Can the person have problems in visuals? Or can the person have problems in processing? Slow, could be slow. Or is the person hyperactive? Thinks too much, thinks beyond what you want him to think. What could be the problem? And therefore, as teachers, we would like to analyze exactly why there has been an error. Now, we therefore saw what the behaviorists believed in, observe outward behavior. But with cognitivists, we also know the inward behavior. We understand a few things. Then there was a third group of psychologists who said that no, it's okay. All this is fine. All that you have said, cognitivists, whatever you said is very fine. But I also noticed one or two other things. For example, if I go to this class, there is this very bright student who today somehow is very sad, very quiet, not at all answering. And if she is answering, giving only wrong answers and so on. So there's some problem with that particular child today, or with this particular group. There's some problem. And these problems could be related to certain human features, such as emotions, thought processes, experiences, physiology. For example, the child may be scared of something. There's a fear. In the morning, when the child left home, there was a fight between the parents. And the father said, you come in the afternoon and evening, I will take care of you. Okay? Now, fear, afraid, and therefore hunger. There's no food. So, there can be a number of other emotional factors which can also affect learning. So learning is not just observation or cognition. It's not just cognition. No, sorry. There are many more things. Environment. Our college is located in such a place where there is a highway or a railway track. And every hour there's a train passing. And even if the teacher is talking, you cannot hear. Or there are lots of distractions. There's a construction going on. So there's loud music there. Or there is a hotel next door from where all kinds of smells come into the classroom. So there's a problem with concentration. So it could be emotional, it could be bodily issues, and so many other emotive things which are human problems. Humans have these problems. And therefore, this third group of psychologists, somebody called Del Hines, who put forth this idea, came to be known as humanists. First one was behaviorists, second one was cognitivists, the third one came to be known as humanist psychologists, because they talked of human issues. And now, most recently, we have one more addition here. A Polish psychologist and a French psychologist, two of them have come up with a new idea. They said that, many of you might have heard about them, probably, yeah? Whether it's Malinowski or it's Piaget, Vygotsky. Now, Vygotsky, Malinowski are all typically Polish. Piaget, P-I-A-G-E-T, is pronounced Piaget, is French. These people said, learning, no doubt is cognitive, this, but learning is also based on experience. Experience plays a very critical part. It is experience which gives an individual language, words, sentences, thought processes, and it is experience which, as the experience builds on, one about the other, one experience after another, that is how learning takes place. And learning is basically a building up of experiences. So they said that humans construct knowledge based on experience. Every experience constructs the knowledge. Your interaction with all the teachers here, whatever they talked about, including me, you take in all this into your cognition, no doubt, but you also build this as part of your experience. And your knowledge is based on whatever experience you have built in after listening to me, for example. And therefore, these people who believed strongly, Piaget, Vygotsky, Malinowski, and so many others, they came to be known as constructivists. Constructivism is what is talked about here. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, I spent a little time about cognition and introducing you to the psychologists, what we call the schools of psychology, namely the behaviorists, the cognitivists, the humanists, and the constructivists, because all these psychologists have contributed enormously to our knowledge system. They have built our knowledge system. And it's on that basis that today we can talk of so many things. That today we understand so many things. And when we do presentation, mind you, now you understand why we call presentation as skills. How many things we need to remember, how many things we need to retain in our mind when we do a presentation. Why is a presentation important? How is it so complex? What are the things we must remember? What should we include? What should we exclude? How should we organize a presentation? Sequence it. All this will depend on all that we have said so far. I leave it open to you for your questions, comments, observations, statements, agree, disagree, whatever you like. Anybody can talk now over the next 10 minutes. Enjoy talking. Everybody, unmute. And give me your faces, video, and talk. Do you agree? Do you understand what I said? Did you understand?
Yes.
Yes. Was it relevant? Is it useful information? Should we know this, or did you know this already? Is this useful information for a teacher? This is what I want to know from you.
But there is something more which we need to learn on this, sir.
Yes, yes. What do you mean by that, Divya?
This might be the overview or bird's eye view of, say, psychologists' views on the audience. So we need to study more on this to get to know, like, how to understand, how to get the environmental feel.
Absolutely. Okay.
What's the mental state of mind of the audience?
Absolutely. Yes.
So just by another point is that just by having the knowledge won't work. How do we apply this?
Good.
How do we apply this knowledge in class is also important.
Very well said. Very true. Good. Yeah, you should know more. You should know. But is this useful? Is this information relevant to us? That's my question.
Yes, sir. We need to be aware of these things while making a presentation.
We need to be aware of these things.
Yeah.
Good. Well said.
Yeah. The point here is having to know, able to understand or having some idea about human psychology or how exactly the cognitive part of the brain or our mind works will help us understanding the student mentality more.
Yes, go on, Priya.
And what are their needs? How exactly we will be how exactly we will be able to reach them?
Yeah.
Good. All these things, I mean, the knowledge of cognitive knowledge and other related stuff will help us understand the student mentality. Absolutely. And what exactly they need.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why
and
is there?
So that.
Yeah. Good. Perhaps we can move a step further. Why is there a problem? What could be the solution? Could it be from my side or somebody else's side, and so on and so forth? Yeah, go on, Priyanka. Yeah.
That's all, sir. That's all.
Good. Very true. Very correct. Yeah, anybody else? Go back to your experiences. Yeah? Anybody else who wants to talk?
What we have explained so far, so everything are important for us as we are in the teaching professions. how you present our skills, how to attract students, and all things are very important. As we are in the teaching profession, it's very most important for us, sir.
Absolutely. Good. Yeah. How you present, what is relevant, very good. Well said, Jaykumar. What is relevant and what is most important for the learners to know, and then comes how do you present it.
Sure.
That's a very good insight. Good. Yes, the what and the how. Why, of course. Okay, anything else? Yeah? Okay. To conclude our discussion, presentation can take on many forms. It can be in a variety of ways. Lecturing is a presentation, as we talked about quite some time ago, which is very, very good. But presentation can be through posters also. And this is important, that we know that we can encourage our learners to prepare posters. Poster presentation is a very advanced and highly articulate type of presentation, because poster presentation can put forth so many things. And most important is that one who has prepared a poster is a presenter who can talk about the poster as well as the content in the poster itself, interpret. And therefore, poster presentation is something all of you, I'm sure, do encourage your learners to do. Another type of presentation is what we call dramatization. Dramatization is also a kind of, you see this, many of these ads involve drama. How do they create a drama? They create characters, and they create the dominant character, one who is most important there, and so on, central character, and so on. So dramatization is another form of a presentation, and a very effective one. So if you know about it, very good. We also talk of mime, M-I-M-E. Mime may not involve any words articulated, said. It can involve a variety of costumes, makeup, and using all kinds of properties. Mime, very effective. But it requires a lot of acting skills also. But mime is a very important way of doing this. So, of course, producing a movie is the ultimate, which is wonderful, and so on, so on, so on. Very good. Now, we also use some of these activities, like presentation skills. We talk of it as a diagnostic tool. Diagnosis. Diagnosis comes from two words. Gnosis comes from the word knowledge, knowing, and die is two. Two ways of knowing, acquiring knowledge is diagnosis. When you go to a doctor, the doctor diagnoses. He is actually talking to you and looking at you and then making some all kinds of things, but he is actually looking at the disease. So his mind is working in two ways, and that's why it's called diagnosis. How he finds out about the disease is his technique. And he seems to be looking at you, touching you, doing all kinds of things on you, but actually he is looking deep inside you. And so a presentation is also a diagnostic tool. We can find out a lot about it. And this is particularly used in group discussions. Many of you might have observed that when there is a group discussion, certainly in an interview, no doubt, but in a group discussion also, in fairly advanced type of group discussions, there will be observers. And in a group discussion, what happens is there are activities where what we call turn taking, turn giving, turn taking and turn giving. These happen in a group work. We are all discussing a certain topic. And when we are discussing a certain topic, I perform different roles. When I say something and everybody is listening to what I am saying, this is what we call turn taking. And I sometimes allow somebody else to take my point further. Allow somebody else to talk. I withdraw. And this is what is known as turn giving. Now, turn taking and turn giving are very key components of a group discussion. In a presentation also, we have both these things possible. We take turns in our presentation. As you saw in my presentation today, during my presentation, I was also giving turns, turn giving to you. You know, I was saying, anybody wants to say something? And you said all kinds of things and so on. And this is what we call turn giving. Now, this is your choice, the presenter's choice. The presenter either can take the entire stage wholesale all the time, or there can be occasions for turn giving. One of the things that I normally do in my classroom, in my face-to-face classroom, is I encourage a lot of talk, and I encourage a lot of talking among the participants. I allow them to discuss. When I ask a question, I don't straight away encourage an answer straight away. No, I say talk to your neighbors. I encourage a lot of talking. Unfortunately, it's not possible in this online mode. Otherwise, we would have all talked. Had we been sitting in a room together, we would have had a lot of talk. And that is where you understand many of these things about presentation skills. And so, in many of these top-level selections, they allow you to discuss in groups, and they'll be observing how you behave in a group, how you control your voice, tone, and so on. So that's where they use it as a diagnostic tool. That's very important. Know this as a diagnostic. You want to know about your learners? How good are they? Who is the best presenter or the best group of presenters? Why do we do that? Why do we rank order them as the best, next? It's a kind of a diagnosis. So you want to have an intercollegiate activity. Who do you want to send? That's where you have done some diagnosis. And therefore, encouraging presentation by the learners, by your students is extremely important. You do the presentation first, and then let your children also do it in the class. Okay, very good. All right. At this point of time, therefore, then I'm calling it off. If you have any more point to make. Anybody? Presentation is also a very good tool to identify leaders, leadership qualities. Good. So, okay. Anybody wants to make a final comment before we close? And somebody proposes a vote of thanks. Anybody wants to say anything? Did we learn anything in this session? Did we understand anything?
Yes.
Or did we not?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, from Divya.
Yes, sir.
Good.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir, definitely.
Good. Happy about it. Whoever is making the vote of thanks, yeah.